Hey y'all, happy Friday. So glad you are joining us today. We're going to continue talking about dividing decimals, and I am so excited. But as we kick off class today, it is our growth monitoring day here on the 5th grade Gold Team. So that requires you to go into iReady. We are going to track our growth in both math and ELA. So in order to do that, the steps are on our Schoology page in our folder for today. It says iReady Growth Tracker. This is a chance for you to show how much you've grown so far in the last 5 or 6 weeks. It's really helpful for your teachers to be able to say, hey, I see you growing. Keep up the great work. And it also helps us understand that if we're not teaching something as clearly as we should, that we can go back and make sure we reteach that as well. So the steps are in Schoology in today's folder. We're going to start with that today. You need to go into Clever, then choose iReady. Go to Math. If it says Growth Check, you are good to go. If it says Diagnostic, let me know. You may have to complete the diagnostic if you have not, but you may also not have to complete the diagnostic. So if it says Diagnostic under Math, let me know. If it says Growth Tracker, go ahead and do that. If it says Diagnostic, move to Reading, and then do either the Growth Tracker or the Diagnostic for Reading. If you get to Reading and it says Diagnostic, please do that. You definitely need to do the Diagnostic in Reading. That helps us figure out where you are and where we need to go next. If it says Growth Tracker for Reading, perfect. Do that. It means you've already done the Diagnostic and you're good to go. If you're doing the Math Growth Tracker and you have completed that, switch to Reading and do the Reading Growth Tracker. Altogether, it should take about 20 minutes and then you'll be good to go. But that is how we're kicking off our class today. Pause the video, go ahead, do those things, the Growth Tracker or the Reading Diagnostic if you need to. Remember, if the Math one in iReady says Diagnostic instead of Growth Tracker, let me know. I'll let you know, yes, you need to do it, or you are all set, you don't need to do that Diagnostic or Math. Awesome. As always, if you have any questions about that, let me know, and I will get back with you as soon as possible. And now, just like my good friends on the news, I'm going to go turn it over to Mr. Spencer to talk about dividing decimals. Why, thank you, Mr. Spencer. I'm Mr. Spencer, and I'm here to talk about dividing decimals today. Now, if you were with us on Wednesday, these are our notes that we took together. Just like when we started adding decimals, subtracting decimals, and multiplying decimals, we made these place value columns. So we were able to draw dots and work through the problems that way. Today, we're going to dive into a couple of different methods you could use to determine our answer in some basic dividing decimal problems. So I'm going to turn my page. I'm going to go right here. I am now back vertically up and down on my paper. And we are going to take on our first problem altogether. Now here is our first problem. It is 1 5/10 divided by 5. Now, before we even think about conquering this problem, I want us to think, what in here looks familiar? What looks like something I know how to do? Well, I know 5. That 1 5/10, 1.5 looks like another number. In fact, I'm going to write that. That is 15/10, because that looks like 15. And I know if that 5 is in the tens place, this would be 15/10. So I'm going to write that down here, 15/10 divided by 5. Now when we say it with our units, we know that 15 divided by 5 is a basic fact. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So 15/10 divided by 5 equals 3. We got to label that, but first I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. All right, so 15/10 divided by 5 equals 3. 3 what? It is 3/10. Because our unit here is tenths, we must have that written there. Otherwise, our answer would be wrong. All right, so now that we know our answer is 3/10, we can go ahead and we can write that answer in a decimal form up here next to our green problem. So 1 5/10 divided by 1 5/10 divided by 5 is 3/10. And we write 3/10 like that, 0.3. We read it, of course, as 3/10. We write it as 0.3. Okay, so we do that, and we knew that 15/10 divided by 5 with a basic fact, 15 divided by 5 is 3. If basic multiplication and division facts are something that you struggle with or something that you're still working on, that is completely okay. I know COVID affected a lot of us, and we're still working to build those basic facts up. By the end of today, we will have a resources folder in the bottom of our Schoology page. It'll have things like a multiplication chart. So that looks like this right here. This is our multiplication chart. We'll have one online. It'll help you figure out your multiplication for basic facts, which is also how you would figure out a division with basic facts. For multiplication, if you haven't seen one before, you can look, if you were trying to find 6 times 5, you would go down your 6 column until you got to your 5, and where they intersected or where they met, that is your answer. So 6 times 5 is 30. Now, if we were doing division, and we want to say, what was 28 divided by 7? Well, we would go down our 7 column until we got to 28. Then we would work backwards. We say 28 divided by 7 is 4. 28 divided by 7 is 4. So I'll be posting a digital one of these online in our resources folder on Schoology by the end of the day today. In the meantime, you can find one of these online. If you Google multiplication chart, you'll get a plethora of them. This one, I'll probably actually go ahead and put it in there as soon as I'm done filming this video, so you can find it in our Schoology page as you watch this video. All right, so, but I know that 15 divided by 5 is 3 back to this problem. So 15/10 divided by 5 is 3/10. Awesome. We're going to take on another simpler problem before we get to the tough ones. The next one we're going to do is 2 4/10 divided by 6. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Now, if I take this piece of paper here and I cover up that decimal, it just disappears. That 24 divided by 6 is another basic fact. I know that 24 divided by 6 is 4. Okay? But this is not 24. It is 2 4/10. But we could write it as 24 somethings. And that is 24/10. Please make sure you are writing these down with us. That way you have these. If you have questions, you can refer to the steps that we've been following. You can bring your notes to a help session if you have questions for me, and I can say, okay, so remember in our notes where we did this problem, let's do the same thing. So make sure you've got these written down. 24/10 divided by what? Divided by 6. And now that we know that 24 divided by 6 is 4, we can put a 4 right here. We're just going to put our label over here. It is for what? It is 4/10. So now we can go back up to our problem in blue. 2 4/10 divided by 6 is 4/10. How do we write 4/10? Just like that, 0.4. Remember, we put that 4 in the tenths place, and then we put our decimal place in the 0. It's 4/10. Awesome. All right. Well, I hope you are ready for a tough one. What's that? You are? Awesome. Here we go. We are now going to do 1 500. Oh my goodness, that looks very similar to that number, but we are going to divide it by 5. But now there's a 0 here. So I want us to decompose, and decompose, of course, just means break apart. 1 5/10, and there are 2 different ways that we could write this. 1 500. Sorry, I think I just said 1 5/10. I meant 1 500. We could write 105 hundredths divided by 5. Or, and I'll slide that up so it is not awkwardly behind my head there. If we cover up that 5, that is 1. Or it is 10 what? 10 tenths. We have 10 tenths divided by 5. So we're going to break apart this into 10 tenths, and then what is left once we take away our 10 tenths? There is 5 hundredths. This 5 hundredths divided by 5. Okay, and what is 10 tenths divided by 5? Well, 10 tenths divided by 5 is obviously 2, because 10 divided by 2 is 5. That's a basic fact, okay? To what? It is 2 tenths. 5 hundredths divided by 5 is 1. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 1 what? 1 hundredth. So then we would have 2 tenths and 1 hundredth. How will we recompose or put that back together? Well, we have our decimal place. We would want to put a 2 in the tenths place, and then a 1 in the hundredths place. So the answer is 21 hundredths. We've already written that down there as a decimal form, so we'll put it up here. If you wanted to divide 105 by 5, you could absolutely do that too, and your answer would be 21 hundredths. If you didn't want to decompose 105 into 10 tenths and 5 hundredths, that's okay. You could also, if you wanted to, I got to make sure I'm not behind myself here, decompose it into 100 hundredths plus 5 hundredths. 100 divided by 5 divided by 5. 100 divided by 5 is 20 hundredths. 5 divided by 5 is 100. Put those together and you get 21. Add them together. Sorry, not just put them together. I should probably slap that up again. Add them together. 20 hundredths plus 1 hundredth is 21 hundredths. All right. So I want us to now look at a couple of relationships. And I'm not talking about my relationship with somebody else. I'm not talking about Mr. Scott, his girlfriend, Officer Oakley, his fiance. Not doing that. We're just going to talk about some number relationships, some relationships between some equations. So I'm going to put 2 equations here for us, and we're going to think about what is similar and what is different. So I want you to take a couple moments. We've got 4 and 8 tenths divided by 6 equals 8 tenths. And we have 48 divided by 6 equals 8. I want us to think for about 25 seconds about what is similar, what is the same, and what is different between these 2 equations. What do I notice that is similar? What is different? I'm noticing some things. I can't wait for us to see if we're thinking about the same things or not. We've got about 10 more seconds and we'll come back together. Awesome. So some things I noticed were similar where we had the same digits. We had 486 on the left side and 486 on the right side. I also noticed that we were dividing both of them by 6, and each answer had an 8 in it. What I noticed was different was there were decimals on the left side, but not over here on the right side. So that meant while our problems looked very similar, they were not the same values. Now, I want you to think, what is the relationship between 4 and 8 tenths and 48? How many times bigger is 48 than 4.8, or 4 and 8 tenths? How many times bigger is 48 than 4 and 8 tenths? Or how many times bigger is 8 than 8 tenths? Well, I know that to go from the tenths place to the ones place, we multiply by 10. So if we had an answer in the tenths place and an answer in the ones place, that would mean this answer is 10 times bigger than this answer. So 8 is 10 times bigger than 8 tenths. But guess what? It's the same thing with 48 is 10 times bigger than 4 and 8 tenths. Interesting. So the relationship between our basic facts, 48 divided by 6 is 8, and our dividing of decimals, 4 and 8 tenths divided by 6 is 8 tenths, are very similar. Okay. Let's take a look at this problem. 4 and 8/100 divided by 8 equals 51/100. And 408 divided by 8 equals 51. So I'm noticing the same two things in these problems, but I want you to think about them first before I talk about them. So let's think for about 20 seconds. What is similar and what is different about these two problems here? And how do they relate to the two problems up top? Well, I don't know if you noticed the same things I did. And if you noticed something different, let me know. But I noticed that they are the same digits, 408, 408, 8, 8, 51, 51. But just like on our top problems, there's a decimal on the equation on the left, but not on the right. But these numbers, 408 is not 10 times 4 and 8/100. How many times bigger is 408 than 4 and 8 tenths? 408 is bigger than 4 and 8 tenths. How much bigger is it? Well, it is 100 times bigger. Because to go from 408 tenths, 8/100, 4 and 8/100 to 408, we'd have to multiply it by 100. So this our 408 is 100 times bigger than 4 and 8 tenths. And then our answer, our quotient, is 100 times bigger than our quotient on the left side. Awesome. All right, well, I'm going to leave you all with 5-ish problems. There's really 7 things to solve, but they are right here. So for these first two, A and B, it says find the quotients. Then use words, numbers, or pictures to describe any relationships you notice between each pair of problems and quotients. So solve each pair. This is one pair. This is your second pair. And then use words, numbers, or pictures to describe what is similar or different between each pair. And then we've got 3 problems on the side for you to just solve using any method you want. Awesome. Well, I'm going to leave y'all here to solve these problems. If you have questions, let me know. I am more than happy to help. Call, text, email, Schoology message, and I will be responding. I'm about to go post the multiplication chart on our Schoology page. It'll be in a green folder on our homepage. And I'm also about to go respond to any Schoology messages. So I will see y'all soon. Have an amazing weekend, Trojans, and I'll see y'all on Monday. Bye.